Ignite the rivalry once again. Canada, USA, part 2, ready to rock. Let's recap what the weekend was at the Four Nations tournament.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leafs centered podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins, and you can bet on the Four Nations tournament, Four Nations face-off, currently over on FanDuel. 9 games down, 1 game to go, Dave. 1 more game to settle it, to see who takes hockey supremacy, and it's going to be between, you guessed it, USA and Canada, part 2, Thursday night. I am so stoked.
It was we kind of expected it in a lot of ways. We were both pushing the whole Canada-US final. I'm sure maybe the fans of Sweden and Finland didn't appreciate everyone kind of having those predictions, but I mean, you just knew after that Saturday game that was not going to be the end of it.
Could it possibly live up to that game? Like, I wonder if it's possible to live up to that game, because again, the way that game started, like 3 fights in the first 10 seconds. And look, we didn't have a show yesterday. It's family day, so we were off for the holiday, so we didn't really recap that game. So we can kind of do that now as we talk about it. But like, that's going to be tough to follow up, right? Like, there was so much animosity and so much built up within that one, because it was the first time that these two teams had seen each other in a best on best and since 2014, realistically. It's the first time that a lot of these guys have got to play against one another and for each other, for their countries. And I mean, it was no holds barred for the first 10 seconds. It was insane pandemonium. I could, like, the one fight, I was like, whoa, what a way to start. 2, then we got 3 fights in the first 9 seconds of the hockey game. It was unbelievable. And the game settled in afterward, and we didn't get another fight, but it was still, a hard-fought, physical, tight-checking game as we kind of anticipated it being. Canada ended up on the losing side of things, of course, but ultimately, man, it was just such a great game. And if it can be topped on Thursday, then, man, this Four Nations tournament it will have turned out to be better than anyone could have expected, because if we can get the replication of Saturday night and kicked up a notch, because there's now a trophy on the line, dude, oh, what a way that this tournament will end.
I think you're going to get a different type of intensity. Like that one, it just felt like there was 9 years of just, we haven't played against each other. We're ready to just beat the living snot out of each other. So let's kind of get that intensity going around top. How much hype, right, build up towards that game. I think that led to a big part of how that game started. This one now, it's like, okay, we got kind of that first one. Now there's something on the line here. And you heard after the game, you hear Tkachuk kind of say, like, it's our time now, right? How many years Canada has been the one in these tournaments coming out on top? The U.S. is just like, okay, no. It's our turn now. And I think that really is going to bring just another level to this game, because U.S. truly feel that this is their opportunity now to finally kind of get their moment at the top. And of course, it's different at World Juniors. It's right. This is like, I mean, this close to we've gone to the Olympics so far, right? This is kind of their moment to finally say we've arrived as a nation. And Canada's like, nah, I think we still want to show that we're still the top dog.
Oh, 100%. And even after today's win against Finland, it was already, we're turning the page and we need to avenge the loss from Saturday. And Nathan McKinnon's like, we can beat these guys. Like, we're better. We can beat these guys, and we want to win. So I got to tell you, man, like, there's a lot of things that I was wrong about with this tournament. I was a little lukewarm on it. I thought it obviously would be a better alternative to the All-Star game, but I wasn't sure if it was going to be this intense and how much of a give a bleep meter the players are going to have. it's pretty clear that they care. And this is, they're playing for their country as if an Olympic gold is on the line, honestly, the way that they're out there. I mean, you can look at the Sweden-USA game aside where that was a meaningless game. So, Matthews held out for precautionary reasons. Turns out Brady Tkachuk, if it were Thursday and that injury occurs Thursday, he's playing through it. He was taken out for what Steve Sullivan's calling precautionary reasons, and Brady Tkachuk or Matthew Tkachuk is similar situation. So besides this game, Sweden and USA that we saw kind of unfold tonight, man, it's been a really, really highly competitive and physical tournament, and it's not one that I was expecting. But that's, I guess, Locked On Leafs, right? So let's start there. Let's start with the Matthews news. So he did not play in the game against Sweden. The Americans losing 2-1 to Sweden. And they are unable to complete the sweep of the round robin. Now, they were extremely shorthanded. So no Auston Matthews, no Matt Tkachuk, no Charlie McAvoy to start. They started Ottinger in goal over Connor Hellebuck, and then Brady Tkachuk got injured early in the game, and Vinny Trocheck missed a little bit of time and came back. So they were extremely short-changed as is, but is there concern there with the Auston Matthews injury? Now, we should state that the insiders and people in the know, and the coaching staff have come out and said he should be good to play for Thursday. And it was more of a precautionary thing. But as a Leaf fan and someone who covers the team, like if you're Brad Treliving, are you holding your breath a little bit with the Auston Matthews situation? Considered an upper body soreness was the designation it was given. Not illness, an upper body soreness. Would that be concerning to you as the host of the Locked On Leafs podcast, Dave?
Well, when you hear upper body, yeah, you do. There's concern because he's dealt with an injury, he's dealt with soreness, right? And whatever this injury is, he has been unable to shake it, right? And he made it seem like this is something he's not going to be able to shake this year. And so, this was always something that was talked about going into this tournament as, do you want Matthews to play because this injury could come up again? I mean, if you're an Atlantic Division team, you're kind of not happy right now because there's so many injuries across the division of guys who either are dealing with something, even though they're considered not serious, right? But there's still injuries. There's still something that's keeping them from playing. If it wasn't serious, they probably would be playing, right? So to me, it's like, okay, I want to see how he plays on Thursday to really gauge. If he's not himself, then I'm going to be a little more concerned that this is something that's probably maybe potentially re-aggravated.
Yeah, which would be worst case scenario for Toronto. And it was a fear going into the tournament, especially when you look at how physical the tournament has been, and guys are finishing checks left, right, and center. And you look at the aggravation of the injury back in was it in December, and it was a cross check, which is what got him injured again. We're seeing that happen out in front of the net literally every other play. Like, guys are fighting for net front presence, and the defensemen are battling to get them out of there and give their goalies some sight lines. So it was obviously a concern, and I think Leaf fans should be a little bit concerned. To your point, we'll see what he looks like on Thursday, and we know that he's been playing through it. There was a good stretch of hockey when he came back from that second injury where he had 7 goals in 9 games, but then he went silent again. And, 6 straight leading into the Four Nations faceoff where he hadn't scored a goal. And he was quite silent in the first 2 games also. Didn't score a goal and wasn't, a game breaker at least. He was okay, but wasn't a game breaker. And that should be a little bit concerning if you are the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's it for William Nylander. We'll come back. Let's get to Nylander and Marner's tournament so far, because there's some concerns popping up with both of those players as well after the tournaments that they've had. So we'll talk about that, and we'll get more into Canada USA Part 2 We're super jacked up for it. That's all coming up next here on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. When the game faces off, the NHL action is getting started, and there's no better place to get in on the action than on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening face-off or you want to bet on a third period comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting, whether I'm backing my team for a late game rally or picking a player to score a goal. I never feel like I'm missing my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the Locked On Network. The Locked On Leafs podcast continues. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, with brand new episodes coming right to you wherever you get a podcast and also up on YouTube as well. It's all Leafs all the time, and there's a trio of Maple Leafs taking part in the Four Nations face-off this week. Two of them still alive. Auston Matthews and Mitch Marner will go at each other on Thursday for the championship. Are we calling it a gold medal game or a championship game? What is it referred to?
I think it's a championship final.
Yeah, because it's a trophy, not a medal, right? So it's a championship. So they'll be going toe-to-toe for the championship. So one Maple Leaf is going to be a champ, and we kind of expected that to be the case because Finland were way down on the odds rankings on FanDuel on them winning the championship. So that's going to be really fun. So we'll get back into that matchup in a little bit. But William Nylander's tournament comes to an end. At least it was on a winning note. Sweden defeated the Americans 2-1, shorthanded Americans, I might add. But that's it for William Nylander. He finishes his tournament with 0 goals, 2 helpers, and Sweden gets 1 win throughout it. All 4 teams did end up getting at least 1 win through the tournament, so everyone got to get a little sliver of success at the Four Nations tournament. But what did you make of Nylander at the face-off?
I didn't think he was amazing, but I didn't think he was bad either. Just 2 assists. I expected a goal from him at least, but there was a presence from him. There was you watch the fact that I think he took a big leadership role in this tournament, and I probably would have expected a little more from him in terms of being a game breaker, but it's also. I think in a tournament like this, we got so many, your lines are kind of more stacked. You're trying to get everybody involved, and it's tough to kind of push, a guy like Nylander the entire time. But I saw stuff that we've been saying all year, right? The speed, his ability to kind of push back the defense on the rush, right? That opened up some space for his other teammates. I look at that goal that Carlson scored, that it was all him, right? Kind of getting the defense to back off and focus on him, allowing Carlson to get the lane for the shot. If you watch the game against the U.S., the setup on the Jesper Bratt goal, I thought was pretty nice from him. So there were good moments like that, but Sweden had just had a really tough time at this tournament too.
Yeah.
So it's not like they were the strongest team either.
I would say that I'm a little disappointed in Willie's tournament. I had maybe it's just because I had high hopes for him. Like you said, he was taking on a leadership role. He got to wear the A as an alternate captain for Team Sweden, and no one in the NHL going into this tournament had more goals on the year because again, Leon Draisaitl, German, not in the tournament. So Nylander was your leading goal scorer at the Four Nations face-off and was unable to come up with a goal. I had a couple of chances, I guess, throughout the tournament, but to me, it wasn't nearly as dangerous as I thought he was going to be. I thought that Nylander would kind of lead the charge, and I even put a wager on him to lead the tournament in goals at one point. I think it was 26-1. He was pretty far down there, and it was just good odds. And, well, I guess the odds makers knew a little bit better than I that Willie was not going to do a whole lot in this game. But it's unfortunate just because he's been the one Maple Leaf that we at least has been known to come up big in those types of games, and for him to kind of go, a little quiet, like, yeah, he got a couple of assists, but to not score a goal through 3 games in this tournament as, the guy who was supposed to get it going for Sweden and be one of their bigger contributors is a little disappointing. So I would say that there was a lot to be desired with Willie's tournament, in my opinion. Mitch Marner, he's the next player I want to talk about and get your opinions on his tournament so far. He's been taken off of Connor McDavid's wing, right? He's been taken off the wing, and which is kind of that's not good, right? Like when you taken off the top line, taken off his wing, and then McDavid goes and scores and has a pretty good game. Reinhart ends up coming up pretty big too tonight. It is a little bit disappointing. And it's something that we talked about, I think, on Friday or Thursday when we had our last show. After he had scored the game-winning goal, it was like, okay, he scored the game winner, so it's a bit tough to have this conversation, but he was kind of a ghost outside of the game-winning goal. And it was a discussion about how, it's very reminiscent to the playoffs. Like it's tight out there. It's tight checking hockey. It's playoff style hockey. And Mitch has not been able to find success when time and space is taken away. And it seems like that's continued here throughout the tournament. I don't know. That's another thing that's kind of concerning to me if you're a Leaf fan.
Well, and also, like, this is such a big year for Marner with this being a contract year. And, you see all these top players, right? The guys who have gotten the paydays like the McDavid. I mean, Marner's gotten a payday, but like guys who have broken the wall, right? And Marner just hasn't had the same impact that those players have had, right? And so when I look at this final game, like the thing with Marner coming into like over these last couple of games, he hasn't been as noticeable outside of obviously the overtime winner. The last kind of 2 games, I feel like it just hasn't really a lot of juice from him. That can change if he has a good performance in the gold medal game, but obviously we've seen that his role has been reduced, right? It seems more of like that's the defensive line, right? Him, Hagel, and Cirelli. That kind of seems like a matchup sort of line. Get a little more of a defensive. Like I guess that's probably you hang your hat on the fact that he's been good defensively, but like I'm not seeing a dynamic offensive player, right? Like not putting up even a lot of points. Like he doesn't have to score a lot, just be the setup man, get the other guys going. Like the fact I understand McDavid's a guy that wants the puck and needs the puck, and that's a tough thing for Marner who wants the puck to give it to other guys.
Right.
But like the fact that he wasn't able to really get a lot going with McDavid, that's it's not great, especially that they have to move down, but maybe they also feel Marner can get other guys going, and maybe that's what they feel is the best way to get him involved.
I don't know. I don't know if it's Marner's being used to get other guys going. I think it was this isn't working. We need to get someone else on the top line. So we got to find a place for Marner. He's playing well defensively. Let's just turn him into a matchup forward for Team Canada. I think that's what it was, and that's it's I don't know. It's not a good thing. I'll say that to take it off the top line just flat out is not a good thing. And imagine it's, kind of a hit to his ego a little bit when that happens. Whether or not that can fuel him to have a better game, we'll see what ends up happening against USA on Thursday. But again, I didn't think he played that great tonight. There wasn't a lot of, times where Mitch Marner wowed me against Finland, in that final game earlier today. Can't really recall, any opportunities where he really showed some gumption in the offensive end and took control of the game. But it just somewhat concerns me because, like I said, this has been playoff-esque style hockey, checking, tight, limited time and space, and that's always been where Mitch Marner fades and turns into a ghost, and that's a big criticism of him. And it's continuing to rear its ugly head here in these big games that are played with that type of style. So We'll see. Again, maybe one game if he goes off and has like a 3-point night, a goal, 2 helpers, makes some things happen. Perhaps the narrative can switch on a dime like that. But to this point, it's been a very disappointing tournament for one Mitch Marner, in my opinion. All right, on the other side, we'll continue to dive into the upcoming matchup of Canada and USA. And I have an interesting stat so far through the tournament. The player with the highest game score through round robin. It's a name you wouldn't expect. We'll get to that next.
Today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast is brought to you by SelectQuote. In sports, having a winning strategy is everything. It's how the best teams make it to the Super Bowl, the World Series, the Olympics, or the Four Nations Face-Off Final. The same goes for life. Having a strategy like life insurance from SelectQuote can protect your financial legacy and keep your family's future secure. SelectQuote makes it easy to find the perfect life insurance policy. As one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 4 years of experience, they've helped over 2 million customers find $700 billion in coverage since 1985. What sets SelectQuote apart is their personal touch. Unlike other brokers that offer one-size-fits-all policies, their licensed agents tailor coverage to fit your unique needs. If you're in good health, you might even qualify for same-day coverage up to $5 million. No medical exam required. And it's more affordable than you think. You can get up to $1 million in coverage for as little as $20 a month. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. That's selectquote.com/lockedonnhl today to get started. SelectQuote. They shop, you save.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you as always. And a reminder that you can find the Locked On Leafs podcast wherever you get a podcast for you on the go audio listeners. And if you want to watch us on your phone or on YouTube or on your computer, you can find us on YouTube as well at Locked On Leafs, and subscribe. We've got new episodes coming out each and every weekday all year long here on the Locked On Leafs podcast. All right, Dave, a little trivia question for you. Okay. We're taking a look at the top 20 skaters from the Four Nations face-off based on net rating. You're familiar with Dom Luszczyszyn's net rating model. So based on that, who do you think is the number one player of the tournament through round robin based on their net rating for offense and D? You add your offensive rating, you add your defensive rating, and that would be your total net rating.
I probably would think it'd be an American player.
Who would that be? Keep in mind the Kachucks really only played like 2 games though.
Yeah, I don't think it's the Kachucks. Like I want to say it's got to be like a Jake Gensel. He's been so good in this tournament.
Jake Gensel is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th.
Ooh.
Jake Gensel is 7th, and he's got 3 goals in 3 games, but he's 7th at 1.00 actually net rating. Yeah, so Jake Gensel is 7th on the list. Number 1, Dave, Erik Karlsson.
Wow.
Erik Karlsson has a tournament leading offensive rating of 1.29 and a positive defensive rating 0.28 for net rating of 1.57, which is 10% higher than Zach Werenski, who's second at 1.47. He's had an unbelievable tournament. He was great against the Swedes too. Almost had a beautiful coast-to-coast goal set up. I guess he got the assist on the lone goal there tonight for Chris Kreider. And then Sidney Crosby coming in 3rd place, 1.24 net rating. And Sidney Crosby, I mean, we haven't really had a chance to break down Canada's win a whole lot from earlier today against Finland. It got a little squirrely for a second there at the end. They're up 4-0. And then, you go to take a leak, you come back, it's 4-3. I'm like, what in the world just happened? And then Sidney Crosby comes out, lays an absolutely thunderous check on Mikael Granlund, gets the puck, fires it into an open net, and 5-3. Bob's your uncle. Canada hangs on and books a ticket into the championship game. But he's had just an unbelievable tournament. To be doing this at 37 years old, it's incredible.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it might be worth throwing a couple bucks on him as MVP. I think he's got some good odds right now.
Does he? Have you taken a look?
I think he's at plus 600 on FanDuel the last time I checked.
It's not bad odds, man. I mean, if Canada wins, he's gotta be the MVP. You look at the game he had, game 1. I think he had 2 points in this game too. And again, he's third in terms of game score. If that means anything for you, he is number 1 on Canada in terms of game score through the first 3 games.
It actually just got updated. I just saw Dom just updated. Carlson's now at 4th. So basically, flip Carlson to 4th. It's Werenski, Crosby, McDavid, and now Carlson.
What do you mean it got updated? He posted this 30 minutes ago.
He sent out a tweet 2 minutes ago. Hadner on the individual expected goals for Sweden this game. So Carlson goes down to 4th.
Oh, that's upsetting. It was such a funny stat that Erik Karlsson.
I mean, the fact that he's top 4, though, still.
Yeah, I guess it's still. So Zach Werenski is your number 1 player of the tournament, according to the Dom Decisions net rating model. And then Crosby at 2, McDavid 3, Karlsson 4, Nate McKinnon 5, and then Gensel comes in at 6th, actually, now with this one. So Joel Eriksson got knocked down a peg. Yeah, I guess that would make more sense, to be honest with you. That would make more sense. But yeah, Crosby, what a hell of a
So I'm just looking right now at FanDuel. The odds on favor right now for the MVP is Connor Hellebuck at plus 250, which if the U.S. pulls off the win, probably be a good reason why. McDavid at plus 290, then it's Crosby at plus 600, then it's McKinnon at plus 650. So there's, I think, some value there with Crosby or McKinnon. They've been real workhorses. I think especially Crosby because he's leading the tournament in scoring, and if Canada wins and he plays a big part in it, which odds would suggest he would, I think it's a good bet on Sidney Crosby right now.
Well, I don't know who's picking MVP. Like, is this is it chosen by like the Professional Writers Association, or is it chosen by some governing? But because whoever's picking the 3 stars are idiots. Like the fact that Connor Hellebuck wasn't the first star Saturday night in the Canada-US game was dumb. Like I get it, Dylan Larkin game-winning goal, but like Hellebuck was the player of the game. Yeah. And then also you look at the Sweden game tonight, Samuel Ersson, the goaltender for Sweden, he was phenomenal. He's fantastic. He was the reason why they won. Not Jesper Bratt, and they gave it to Bratt for the game-winning goal. So I don't know if they're picking at least like at tournament MVP or if it's chosen by the writers, which it probably should be, much like it is in the NHL when it comes to the Conn Smythe. But that could definitely change things. If it is in fact the writers, I think the narrative to give this award to Crosby, pretty much you have to decide who you think is going to win the championship, right? Like who's going to win, Canada or USA? If it's Canada, I think Crosby's the play. If it's USA, I think Hellebuck would probably be the play. And a reminder, you can go and do that over on FanDuel, the official sportsbook sponsor of the Locked On Network. Well, Dave, we'll reconvene on tomorrow's show. We'll do a full preview of the game ahead of it. It's not till Thursday, so we got a couple of days to kind of bask in it and see if we get some healthy bodies for the Americans, because that's going to be a big storyline. Can the Kachucks play? At what level are they going to be at? Matthews expected to play for Team USA, and is there still a question in net for goaltending after that flurry of goals allowed here late in the third period? Could it be Aiden Hill in the gold medal game? Another question we'll have to ponder throughout the week. So lots more to get into throughout the week. And then we'll also take a look at some, Leaf storylines as well, with hockey getting back up and running later on this week, pal. Saturday they get back. So it's quick turnaround, Thursday to Saturday. is as quick as it'll get for guys like Marner and Matthews to when they got to get back into game form and back into a Maple Leafs uniform. All right, that'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back for another episode for you guys tomorrow. But until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.